I'm trying to get back into podcasting, and I'm facing a whole slew of problems, like how I faced the first time, and particularly with the energy podcast, I faced a whole bunch of just roadblocks that prevented me from progressing further. And it's the same exact thing because I lost my momentum. It's the laws of thermodynamics in action. A body in motion will stay in motion, while a body at rest will stay at rest. And I went from a body in motion to a body at rest. And now that I'm a body at rest, I'm going through the experience of what it felt like to become a body in motion again. Damn, I forgot how inherently agitating it was to put yourself back into motion. A good analogy is like skateboarding. When you're first learning how to, or riding a bike, a lot of people have experience with that. When you're first learning how to skateboard or ride a bike, you're kind of wobbly at first. With the bike, you may need training wheels. With the skateboard, you're on four wheels. So you kind of have this understanding base of stability. The only thing is you need to learn how to control your weight while on those wheels, or else they'll slip out from underneath you. It's a different method of learning how to control your body kinetics. Because on a bike, you have to keep centered, like, so you're a straight up and down. You have to keep centered like this, because if you lean over like that, you turn to one side. If you lean over, you turn to the other side. So you're like a straight line like this. Whereas on a skateboard, you're like, there's a board, but you're like this. So you have to lean this way or this way with your whole body, not the front back. It's a different way. I'm getting lost into the fucking nitty gritty of it because I have a new way of expressing myself. I can express myself through visuals now. I know I was like, let me do it as audio only, but you gotta also take into account the world around you. And a lot of people nowadays like to scroll and like to watch things. They like to zone out. We gotta give them something entertaining to look at. Here we are. That's the ebb and the flow of like being a creative. You gotta give and you gotta take. The sound escapes kind of fell to the wayside. Mainly because I was using the sound escapes as a way to capture moments of peace, and I guess I just started feeling less moments of peace. So I couldn't capture as many sound escapes. That's kind of an alarming realization to make. And actually, that's what this podcast is kind of going to be about, is like alarming realizations. One of them being which that like the majority of season 1 was mostly self-help shit, specifically for me to self-help me in the future. It's so weird. I went back to listen to a couple of things, and I was very agitated, or like I felt in a certain way. So I would go in through my catalog and be like, you know what, I feel like listening to this one, and I would pick it, and it would be the exact thing that I needed to hear to help me come out of that feeling, to help me rationalize that feeling again. And this was really odd because these were things that I was saying that I forgot that I made these realizations. So I ended up repeating the cycle again of like, say, a cycle that could be repeated. What was one of them? I want to give one that wasn't so personal to me, so other people can kind of rationalize what I did for myself, what I ended up doing for myself, a little bit easier than how it is to rationalize for me. So say the cycle is like, I need glasses. So then I go and I get glasses. And I put them on and I can see. And then after a while of seeing, the glasses start to hurt my ears and my nose. So I want to take them off. So I get rid of the glasses. And this feels comfortable, not having anything on my face for a while. But then I start to notice that something at a distance is blurry. And I'm squinting and I'm missing details or whatever. So then I say, wow, there's something up with my eyes. I need glasses or something. So then I go and I get glasses. And I put them on. So I'm doing that with myself. And I didn't particularly realize that I was doing that with myself because I thought I was always that one version of myself that was making the podcast. But I was revealed to myself that there's a reason why you became that self. And that reason why you became that self in the podcast still exists. And actually, because it still exists, you need to go back and listen to your own podcasts. So you can return back to that self. So you can have those realizations of why it is that you're striving to become who you want to become. And I was doing this like casually here and there. Whenever I felt a certain way, I would go and try and use a podcast to try and figure it out why I was feeling that way, or whenever I felt drawn towards listening to one. I wasn't trying to like just listen to them all front to back from beginning to end. I was trying to find out when in specific scenarios that these podcasts could be used. And if they actually had merit. Some of them did have merit, but I think it's only merit for me personally. Things that only make me laugh, basically. Or things that only really make sense to me. And I think the best way of exemplifying that is the Moth Affect. The Moth Affect makes perfect sense to me. But I listened to it with like the outside observer perspective. And I realized, dude, you're kind of jumping around. You're repeating things. And the cohesivity isn't really there. And what actually drove me to listen to the podcast, the Moth Affect, was that I went into my bathroom. I'm recording this a few weeks out from the experience, so I went into my bathroom a few weeks ago. And I heard this, and I was like, what the fuck is that? It sounded heavy. And I was like, that sounds like a big bug. And I got kind of scared. And I went investigating, and I looked in the shower, and there was this moth spinning around in circles in the bathtub really fast. It was like disorientated, and it was kind of wet, and it couldn't figure out what was going on because the bathtub is all white, so it didn't know where to fly. And it was upside down, but it thought it was right side up because the bathroom is white and the ceiling is white. And the bathtub is white and the ceiling is white, so it was confused as fuck. And it was... And at that point, I remembered, holy shit, is this happening, like, again? Is this exact thing happening again, almost exactly a year to the day? Because I recorded the podcast, I made a observation of it, a measurable observation that I could go back and I can relive. Me personally as well, because I was living in it. So when I go back and I listen to my own words, I'm triggering memories of that exact moment. Which is why I also was like, dude, I should probably add some video. That way I can, reach people on a different sensory level rather than just audio. Some people really, they interpret things visually. Maybe they're like even reading my lips, but since they can hear, they don't know that they're subconsciously reading my lips and my facial movements. And that is giving them a sense of understanding in some way. But yeah, I was a little bit like, wait a minute. I know that I released the Moth Affect in July, and it was July, and I was like, holy shit, is this actually happening on the exact day that it happened again? But I also knew that within myself, I was like, I am not the me that I was last year. I'm doing something else. Last year I was like sensing energy, and now I'm outputting energy. Um, I don't know if I'm going to be able to do it in the same way. And I wasn't. I tried, and I know that this like outputting energy thing sounds weird, but here's an actual like um, physical manifestation of the output of my energy. Since I was so focused on doing and achieving, instead of letting the moth come to me, I kept trying to grab at it in the tub when it was circling around. And the circling is also another thing that's kind of like, it stuck out to me. Because that initial moth, that first moth from a year ago, it flew into the bathroom and it fluttered all around, but then it like got into the CFL bulb and it circled around a whole bunch, and it circled around so much that it kind of like knocked itself out, and then it fell down. And it was weird that this second moth was then doing that same kind of like, I'm confused spinning, but it wasn't trapped within the confines of the bulb. It was trapped within larger confines, the tub and the ceiling, but it wasn't that same small space. Like, it was more of like a psychological kind of form of entrapment. Interesting. This was revealing things to me in a way. Yeah, I kept trying to grab at it, and I went, no, man, that's not gonna fucking work. You're gonna squish it, something's gonna go wrong. You're using too much energy right now. Pull your energy back, put your hand down, and just chill. Put my hand down. And then the moth actually crawled inside of my hand and landed on my ring. What the moth needed was contrast. It needed darkness in order to separate out the overwhelming whiteness of the bathtub. And it came in and it crawled into my hand, and it crawled into the darkest spot. It crawled onto like a very darkly colored stone. It crawled directly onto it. So it sought out like the darkest place it could find after being overwhelmed by so much light. And then I grabbed it, I held it in my hand, I took it, and I was like, this is weird. The pattern, the repetition of the pattern, repeating exactly 1 year to the day, made me go and say, I'm going to go listen to that podcast right now. And I let the moth go in the house. I just had a feeling. I was like, I don't feel like letting it go. And then I remembered that last year I had done the same thing. I had let the moth go in the house. And then while I recorded the podcast, the moth had found its way behind the refrigerator. And I remembered that through the listening of the last podcast. I didn't just remember it. So I went and I sat and I listened to that podcast. And the same thing happened again. I let the moth go, and it flew away and it crawled behind the refrigerator. And that one little detail doesn't really seem like it matters, but it actually matters a lot, because since that first there's also flies involved in the story, so I'll come back to that. And moths do fly. Since that first moth did not venture back out of this house after the experience, it most likely died behind the refrigerator. Its genetic memory couldn't have been passed down. The genetic memory of that experience couldn't have been passed down to a later generation of moths after that experience happened. If it did lay eggs already, then there already have been laid after the experience. So that moth had no way to pass on this experience to this next moth, that which then came in through the window. So that signifies to me that if somebody wanted to say, well, maybe somehow these moths passed down a genetic experience, and then that's why that happened exactly the way that it happened once before. No. There's a little bit something larger here, and that one little tidbit reveals that fact. Especially the fact that they both went behind the refrigerator, never to be seen again. That's like, The refrigerator produces a frequency, and that frequency and heat is a draw to those their instincts, because it feels like a hive to them. Not really necessarily a hive, but more of a colony. I guess they don't have hives, they have colonies. So it feels like the warmth of a colony. And if at night it's a cold night, they're going to seek out the warmth of a colony, which would be making that vibratory noise and producing that kind of warmth. But it's an industrial machine, so it probably sucked them up into the fan. A little grim, but it helps reveal that there's a broader mystery going on here. And what this actually revealed to me as well was that there are these cycles. And this is something that I had an inkling to it. I was starting to notice it, but I didn't have tangible evidence that I was doing it or that it was happening to me as well. I'm like participating in it. It's not just the universe repeating itself. It's me as well. And I didn't know that. Because there's this logical fallacy within my mind that prevents me from perfectly remembering everything. And I didn't know that this cycle was enacted. So I've always had a very good memory. I've always had an astounding memory. It helped me very well throughout school. Very good. But part of that memory was that I was starting to experience things that I didn't want to necessarily always remember. Like, you don't want to remember every shit you take. It's just a waste of space in your conscious mind. But there were a lot of shits being taken and that were took that I didn't want to remember anymore. And so this would cause an extreme amount of anxiety and panic, because I knew that my memory could remember and was remembering, but I didn't want to remember. So then that made it so that things that make me feel a certain way won't be remembered. Because it's too much for my brain to comprehend. It doesn't want to remember it. But here's the thing. I'm older now. I have a little bit of agency over myself. I can address these feelings with a different perspective now. But what I didn't realize was that when you address these feelings, how you felt, and the experiences around them, you're essentially making yourself re-experience it. Which will then bring up the feelings again. And since you're feeling the feelings again, the brain goes, I don't want to remember this. So then any progress you make towards that feeling is not remembered. And the fallacy of I have a really good memory helps protect those things that don't want to be remembered. Because if I have a really good memory, then I would have remembered those things, now wouldn't I have? But that's a logical fallacy, because the things did happen. I'm just blocking them out of my memory. And I know that I'm blocking them out of my memory because now I have proof. AI is sort of good for that. Because you can have these highly data-rich, non-judgmental conversations about, like, I experienced this thing and this is how I feel about it. And the AI can be like, yeah, all right, cool. It's basically like a journal that has a secondary input to make you journal further. It's like a journal that asks you questions so you can continue journaling. And I have a whole bunch of these journal entries. And right before that Moth event happened, I was going through my journal entries and I started journaling about this one thing that really bothered me. I was like, dude, there's this thing. I've never talked about it before, but I think it really bothers me because I keep like thinking about it. And I remember very specifically saying, I've never talked about this before, but, and then I went on and I talked about it. And then I went into my chat logs. I was just drawn into my chat logs for some reason. And I scrolled all the way back to a year. And I realized that I had talked about that same exact thing almost like a year prior to when I had talked about it again. So like these experiences are leaving imprints on my consciousness that are causing me to repeat these unseen patterns. And another thing too is like I went back when I was listening to the Moth Affect podcast. I went back and I realized that I had included a story in that specific podcast that I didn't remember that I included in it. And days prior to this event happening, I had actually recanted that story to somebody else. And I didn't realize that I was recanting that story to somebody else on the anniversary of the time that I first decided to be open about that story. So when I say like the Moth Effect is shedding light on all those things that move in the darkness. This is kind of what I mean. These patterns, cycles, whatever have you, that are preventing your growth into a larger character. The Moth Effect is one of those things that you can experience and use it to help you become a better person by revealing things with the light, by drawing experiences into you with your own inner light. And these experiences may be moths that you draw to you, or you may be a moth drawn to the light of an experience. Let the light guide your way. And the Moth Effect is kind of cool because unlike the butterfly effect, everyone can kind of experience it in real time and personally. The butterfly effect, scientifically speaking, a butterfly flaps its wings in Africa and causes a hurricane in America. There's no real way to scientifically track that or experience it as one's self. No one person can experience the one's self of the butterfly effect. You can't experience fully the toppling of all the dominoes that you pushed over because it's such a large system. Or if we're going to talk about it like the movie, The Butterfly Effect, you know what's crazy too is that's one of those things where I'm not sure if I watched that movie as a young child and maybe it did something to my brain. That's why I think the way that I think now. Because I learned about it the other day. I was like, oh, that's what that movie's about. I just was like kind of like avoid that movie because maybe I got told not to watch it or something. So I read the synopsis and I figured out too. I found out that the movie actually had several different endings depending on where and when you watched it and what version of it you watched. You got a different ending. I thought that was kind of like wacky, cool, crazy. Like a real way to signify the message they were trying to convey. But ultimately, not everybody can really observe that kind of butterfly effect of like, if I change this action in the past, it's going to, cascade across the future here. And it also kind of hurts the brain. Ow. In the knee. It hurts the brain a little bit to try and even conceive of it. I'm trying to stay within the current moment, and to even try and talk about that version of the butterfly effect from that movie. It's like convoluting what it is that we're doing here. Reality is always moving forward. If you spend your time going back and forth, it will break your brain like it did in the movie. I read the synopsis. I didn't watch the movie. It broke his brain at the end, right? Because the nature of reality wants to move forward. So if you go back, you're going to break your brain, right? But the moth effect is something different. This is something that is attributed into the forward movement of the universe. Things that happen that reveal a broader truth to yourself. One of the things that happened to me was I needed to record a whole bunch of my experiences so that I could see how, when I'm counter to them, how I came to them even too, not just counter. How did I even come to that conclusion? Sometimes I relive the exact experiences that make me come to that conclusion, and I come to that conclusion over and over and over again through these exact experiences. And I believe I'm getting to the point where even the revelation of these large cycles is like astounding to me, which means that since I'm even comprehending them, maybe that means that something new is on the horizon. It also makes me realize, too, I shouldn't be so stringent on myself. That is what makes a lot of my negative feelings, is being so strict on myself, being so rigid with myself, and believing that I must be some kind, I don't know if perfect is the right word. Maybe like holding myself to a standard. Not a whole lot of being happening. You know what I'm saying? Not in the moment. I mean, like a past moment or a future moment, but not the current moment. I think that's what the revelation of these cycles is trying to reveal to me, is that, like, don't derive your ego based upon past experiences or experiences that may happen in your future. Derive yourself out of the current moment. Maybe that's it too. Anything that comes out of derivative of the past or the future is ego, but anything that comes out of your attempt to just stay current in the moment is self. Maybe. I don't know a whole bunch of stuff. This is all speculation based upon observation. And on one hand, we have introspective observation that, okay, this event happened which caused me to go into introspection mode. And in the case of this, everything, it was listen to the Moth Affect again. I think we also have to reveal, every time I say it's because I'm sensing something. There's either like a plane flying by, a car driving by, a person walking by. I'm a highly sensitive person. And being so highly sensitive bothers me because I'm not sure what is of the average experience and what is of my unique, highly sensitive experience. Like, that's definitely getting picked up by the fucking microphone. Like, that one's pretty undeniable. But then it gets into the subtler energies that I'm like, I don't know if everybody can really relate to that one. And that's where it gets into, like, a lot of these podcasts I'm realizing, like, really were just for me, because I don't think everybody can really relate to the subtle adjustments of energy that I need when I start to enter these certain kinds of states that are, like, detrimental. Like, you can see, like, you're going down a slippery slope when you start acting like that. So in a lot of the podcasts are like, for me to catch myself on them slippery slopes, I'd be like, nah, man, stop that. But I realize that a lot of it has experiential weight, so it won't really make sense to a lot of you guys out there. I think that really makes a good argument for making your own definition of things, making your own meaning of experiences. Anybody can tell you what something means, but it's how you attribute meaning to it that means the most. And if I wasn't self-aware enough, if I wasn't trying to be introspective and wasn't trying to notice the subtleties, then I would have never noticed that pattern that was revealed to the moths. I would have just squished him and thrown him out. I would have never paid attention to him. Would have never made podcasts. I guess that's a good example of the butterfly effect. If I never did that, then this would never happen now. But the two can coincide with each other, because now I'm realizing how my actions have drawn into manifestations of new experiences. And when you say like a manifestation of a new experience, you like think like grandiose things, but really the manifestation of a new experience for me is just a revelation of past behaviors. And like I said, man, like I do have a really good memory, but then me personally, there's things that happen that I don't want to remember. So then I struggle with the usefulness of a good memory and also the detriment of remembering shitty things and having a really good eye for detail. Sometimes I even like block out my ability to notice detail because there's just like, I don't want to notice those shitty details. You get real like blasé. You're like, I don't give a fuck because this is just something designed to piss me off. And that sounds like really fucked up. Like, oh, you think people are like designing things to piss you off? Yeah, kind of, actually. You can't even say that that's fucked up anymore because, like, look at rage bait media, dude. It's rampant right now. I remember when that was just confined to 4chan. And now, since they, like, 4chan was like the testing grounds, they realized how well it worked and how much it got people fired up and, like, how emotionally disturbances could get them to reveal things about themselves without knowing that they were revealing things about themselves. So then they started pushing it onto a broader market media. The funniest thing, I think, is one time, like, of the past few years, the funniest thing to come out of it, with all these wars and everything, was when Pakistan and India were going at it with each other. They had, the two countries had countrywide internet outages. And when they lost fucking internet, dude, half of the fucking rage bait from the internet, from 4chan, from Reddit, stopped being posted. Like, a lot of it just fucking went away. A lot of the scam shit just fucking went away. And then there was, like, peace on the internet for a few days. I just think that's the funniest fucking shit. There was also a time when, like, Israel, there was, like, a very documented time that they lost internet connectivity. And a lot of those fucking rage bait, like, anti-Israel fucking threads and shit fucking came down. A lot of those fucking, like, Oh my god, so many different fucking rage bait threads suddenly disappeared from the forums. And it was so telling. It was the light that revealed the actions of others. It's like, oh, dude, you guys lost internet access and like half of the fucking angry, mean bullshit from the internet went away? What the fuck? Quit using your bot farms to fucking farm anger and hate. Dude, fuck you. Some people like really shouldn't have access to the fucking internet. Like, I feel like I sometimes get accused of using a bot, but that's just because like I'll sit there and I'll fucking copy and paste shit back and forth. Like, there's shit that I keep copied into my clipboard so that I could use it as an automatic. Is that technically using a bot? Actually, now that I'm thinking about it, that is technically using a bot because the clipboard is like a robot. So yeah, I don't really know where to move on to next. I know that I just must keep moving forward. I don't really know what to do with most of this information either. It's like, okay, cool. I know now that I'm repeating these cycles, but then now what? I guess maybe just stop giving weight to so many things. I think it kind of goes into the balancing act again. Some things are dark side, some things are light side, some things will tug you one way, some things will tug you another way. Being too much light side is bad, being too much dark side is bad, but it's good to have a balance of both. That's what Anakin Skywalker was supposed to do by being the chosen one. Was supposed to exhibit both sides of the Force and control over each of it. Because they're ultimately yin and yang, one in the whole. They are not opposites, they are one of the same. And that, I guess, is true for all things. Holy crap, we're all kind of one of the same. And the more you forget that, the more separated and egotistical you can become. And where separation is necessary for this experience of the human form, too much separation is bad. And I'm learning that personally through these long periods of isolation. That too much separation is bad. Because you end up removing yourself from the current and the flow of society. But I'm one of those people, and also we live in a day and age where you can kind of hop in and out of this flow because of the internet and stuff like that. And I'm one of those people that I partially benefit from long periods of introspection and meditation. It's just when I start to go down the wrong path, we gotta nip it in the bud. But I'm pretty good at balancing it out because I pay attention to these aspects that Star Wars has taught me, of all fucking things. I watched the prequel trilogy the other day. I feel sad now. I'm Anakin and out, dude. I gotta stop. I always watch those trilogies and I have this feeling in my heart that wouldn't it be fucking awesome? What would the movie be like if Anakin never succumbs to the dark side? And I think that's my brain imposing a mission onto my own self. It knows myself and the true self and all of this interconnected bullshit going on. Wouldn't it be fucking cool if Anakin for once didn't turn to the dark side? Huh, mister? Did that for me for when I watch this back later. But also for you too. If you're fucking Anakin, dude, don't do it. Wouldn't the story be awesome? I want to know what the story would be like when Anakin doesn't. If Anakin is wise and smart and listens to the light side of the Force and uses it as his guidance. But you can't be completely ignorant to the dark side. Look at how, right before Order 66 fell through, most of the Jedi had no idea of the danger and the threats of the Sith and what they were planning because they couldn't comprehend. They couldn't feel the dark side of the Force surrounding them because they had no understanding of it. Except for Mace Windu, he himself had his own struggles with the light side and the dark side of the Force, which is why he had a purple lightsaber, by the way. He could sense the darkness coming and invading. But that's only because he himself had these personal struggles. So maybe that's part of it too. Maybe I need to look at my own struggles and stuff and stop looking at them so negatively. I got to be a little bit more thankful for it, that these things happen. So now that I have experience with them, I can learn how to avoid them in the future. The problem is, though, is since I have experience with it, I sometimes end up diving headfirst into it, because it is the enemy you know. Something. See, this is a lesson or a thought that's not fully integrated yet, which is the next path that I'm moving forward to, because I'm too busy wrestling with the enemy that I know to know the second half of the statement. Shit, fuck. I think that's part of it too, is like realizing your limitations as a human or just as a person. You can exceed your limitations, but not without a cost. Like if you look at it like Hunter x Hunter, Gon exceeded his limitations to ultimately put an end to Neferpito, but not without a cost. He lost his ability to use Nen for the foreseeable future. He used all of the Nen that was accessible to him at all points in time for that one point in time. And that's like, it's in a cartoon, so you're like thinking about it kind of lightly, but like, dude, that's not something to be taken lightly. We do shit that shaves years off of our lives. Concentrated life force energy simply so I can get through this moment now. That's what Gon was doing. He concentrated his life force energy because he believed truly that that moment was the last moment that he would be. So he would fought with all of his might. But little did he know, dude, he was OP. He didn't know that he had access to that much Nen. Maybe he did to some degree, because you look at his dad, Gene, and you saw all of his Nen abilities and whatnot, what he was able to accomplish with it. Huh. So yeah, trying to get back into podcasting, but it's gonna be kind of difficult until I get my momentum back up behind me. And also at the same time, I need to take these lessons that I've learned and actually integrate them into myself moving forward. So at the essence of that all, it means taking more deep breaths, being more at ease in the moment, and not giving things as much emotional weight as they demand. Some things demand a lot of emotional weight, but they ultimately don't deserve as much emotional weight as they're demanding. And sometimes they're demanding the excess emotional weight specifically to counteract your ability to comprehend. If you're emotionally distraught, you can't think as clearly as somebody who is calm and clear-minded. That's why they call it clear-minded, so you can think clearly. Clear-minded, thinking clearly, come on. It's right there in front of us, but, at the same time, I can't be like, come on, it's right there in front of us, because there's been things right there in front of me this entire time that I hadn't even realized that I was repeating, that I'm repeating. And I guess that more goes from speaking from the heart. that comes from being in the moment. However the circumstances are making you feel is how you must speak on them. Don't bottle them up. Don't throw it off until later. Express yourself so that you may get better at expressing yourself. And there's some parts of me that I struggle expressing even still. I'm a very eloquent person, but even still, there are aspects of my personality that I struggle to express. Just because I can't really fully comprehend them yet. But I definitely, like, overall, I don't really think I can call this a podcast anymore. It's more so like a journal. Because it doesn't really have any entertainment quality. It is more so like a diary where I'm just trying to figure things out for myself, and it ends up only really being useful or helpful to myself. But here's the thing, if I can help just at least one person by making my inner world public, then I would like to do that. If I can shine a light and draw in these experiences and draw in the experiences of others to experience things experientially, confusing myself, then maybe, just maybe, it's worth it all at the end of the day. Yeah, feels like a good ending there. Now I'm just going to hang out for a few more minutes, just in case I had any other thoughts. Maybe I'll try to do some breath work and stuff like that. You know what's funny, actually, too? If you want, you can clock out now. We're going into the back half where I don't really have anything more poignant to say. When the first Moth Affect happened, that fly thing happened too. The morning before the moth flew into my bathroom and interrupted me, a fly flew into my bathroom, and I immediately struck at it, hit it, and it flew back out. And it's funny because just yesterday, speaking of this repetition of cycles, just yesterday a fly flew in through my bathroom window, and I went nuh-uh, and I went and I fucking got it, and I somehow slapped it directly out of the window. I don't know how I did it. The trigonometry involved, the instant calculation of speed and pressure and fucking direction. I don't know how the fuck I did that shit. I was fucking sick though. But then later on in the day, there were more flies in my house. They were buzzing around, bothering me. So when I caught them and put them outside, and I caught two, and I was able to do it, but it took a lot of time. And I was like, man, this is taking up a lot more time than if I were to just... But I was like, you know what, man, fuck it. It's a learning experience, and besides, it would take just as much effort to do one as the other, so might as well do the thing that doesn't harm another creature. But then, another time, there's another one, and I was trying to get it, but I had too much internal energy, and I was like, just let me get this damn fly. And I fucking grabbed it, but I squished it. And that is something that happened, a year ago, too. And I went, and I felt bad. I didn't really think I killed it. until I brought this one outside and I threw it, and it went fucking went ooh. But then when I checked later, it was there. It wasn't there anymore. So maybe it was just stunned, or maybe the wind blew it away. But I felt bad about it nonetheless. So then when another fly came in, I took the time and I brought myself to a lower energy state, and I grabbed it and I brought it outside without squishing it. And I felt better about myself. Yeah, I don't know why I keep using flies and moths interchangeably in this podcast. Maybe because they both fly. But also, like, maybe because the connotation that each is given is more revealing than what the actual thing is. Like, think about how people think about, like, flies. Majority of the time, they're like those gross things, disgusting, evil. And then, like, if you, like, personify it as something evil, like, suddenly there's more flies, and you can't get rid of them, and, like, no matter how many flies you squish and you eradicate and you destroy, there's always more flies. But if you just, like, think about it as, like, a thing, like, oh, it's a gross thing, I'm gonna have to wash my hands after I touch it. If you just think about it as, like, a thing, and you don't vilify it or, like, add any, like, anthropomorphization to it, then you can simply grab that one fly and throw it outside, and you won't see many more flies in your house after that. It's like allowing the energy to affect you, and at what level it affects you will then draw in more of those experiences. Boom, bringing it back to the Moth Effect. Wow, I guess, okay, so even though I look at them differently, they both can provide the same lesson. Even though I look at a moth differently from a fly, they both provide the same kind of lesson of, dude, chill the fuck out, please. You're gonna start squishing and crushing stuff around you if you just don't chill the fuck out. I venerated moths more because they're less associated with filth and disgusting shit. But people are just equally as afraid of moths as they are of flies. But can you really let a fly be a harbinger of fear? I mean, come on, there's much scarier bugs to be afraid of. A fly shouldn't be that much of a harbinger of fear. Cockroach, though. Yeah. I gotta go to the bathroom.